Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another installment of Scott's Selections here for Thursday, May 30th. More of this video is coming out pretty late, but I ended up having a flight get delayed about 3 hours yesterday. So I ended up getting into New York pretty early in the morning, and then my schedule was kind of hectic. But I now have some free time, and do not worry about the time of this video, as the game we will be selecting will be taking place at roughly 9 o'clock, as it is the main event between the Golden State Warriors and the Toronto Raptors in Game 1 of the NBA Finals. Now, we're just going to actually dive right into it. The play itself, we're going to be taking a quarter line, and we're going to be taking the Golden State Warriors fourth quarter pick'em, which is available at minus 109 on Bookmaker. Now, some of you might be wondering, in general, what do I think of the series? And the answer is that I think Golden State is going to win relatively easily, as I think that Toronto has done a really good job of beating Milwaukee and Philadelphia, but I think the Warriors are just a different animal, and I think their championship-level experience will be too much for the Raptors to handle, and I think Golden State should win this in 4 or 5 games. But the reason why I like the fourth quarter here is the fact that Toronto has finally gotten over the hump. They finally made it to the Eastern Conference, through the Eastern Conference, I should say, into the NBA Finals. So I know Toronto's going to be rocking. I know that this home court advantage will be huge in Game 1. So for that reason, I think Toronto will do really well in the first half. And I think that if Toronto is going to win a game in this series, it will have to be this game, as the Warriors are coming off a long layoff. They could be a little bit rusty, and Toronto has looked fantastic at home over the last couple of games, and they just had a great reverse 4-0 against the Milwaukee Bucks. So I think that Toronto will play well in the first half. Also, it's worth mentioning that Golden State, even against Portland, was awful in the first half and had to overcome 3 separate 15-point deficits in consecutive games. So they're down 15 plus in 3 straight games, ended up winning all 3 of them, and ended up winning the series in 4 games. So for that reason, Golden State has always been a second half adjustment team under Coach Kerr, where the Warriors could start out a little bit flat in the first half as a feeling out process, and then they'll flip a switch in the third quarter and the fourth quarter, and they'll eventually win the game, as they will go on some type of great run in the second half to propel them to a win. And for me in this game, I think the Warriors will win, so you could lean to the money line here. But Toronto could simply just blow the doors open in Game 1 at home, and I think that they could end up winning this game relatively closely. But it doesn't change the fact that the Warriors had the 11th highest fourth quarter points margin in the league at plus 0.5, while Toronto had the 18th highest fourth quarter point margin at negative 0.2. So Toronto's actually, throughout the entire season, has given up more points in the fourth quarter than they have scored. And the Warriors, although this dominance is not as good as the third quarter, they're still a very solid fourth quarter team, and they have outscored their opponents in the fourth quarter by 0.5. So for me, I think the Warriors will start out slow. I think that they'll take them a little while to adjust, and I think that Toronto will come out and try to punch Golden State in the mouth. And I expect Golden State to do what they did against Portland and to rally in the second half, as this Warriors team, particularly Curry and Draymond Green, since Kevin Durant is out for this one. I know Boogie Cousins is back and he is active for this game, but I doubt he will play probably more than 10 minutes, as he has not played in a while. So look for him to play very limited minutes, probably off the bench. But I think Curry will play well, and I think that Draymond Green, in my opinion, is going to win an NBA Finals MVP, as Draymond has looked fantastic over the last couple of weeks with the Warriors. He lost 20-something pounds. He looks a lot lighter on the floor, and he's definitely played the best ball of his career. And right now, as an MVP favorite, as an MVP odds here, I think Curry is too high of a favorite. I don't think he should be a minus 140, considering the fact he's never won one before. I would not be surprised to see Draymond win this, as I think Draymond will average close to a triple-double in this series. So I think that Draymond personally is my pick to win the NBA Finals MVP. But for the sake of this game, I think that Toronto, the question is, even though Toronto has finally made it to the NBA Finals, do you think that they have overcome their choker label in previous seasons? I think partially, but at the same point, I just think that Golden State in the fourth quarter will kick it up a notch defensively, and I don't think that Toronto will have any answers offensively. As in the fourth quarter or the last couple of games, it seems like they just rely on Kawhi alone to generate offense, while the rest of the team doesn't really do anything. And I think that the Warriors will run very efficient offense in the fourth quarter, very unselfish basketball, and I think at minus 109 on Bookmaker at a fourth quarter pick'em, that's a good value. Even if Toronto's up in the game by about 15 points in 3 quarters, the Warriors are going to run the fourth. So for me, I think that the Warriors fourth quarter pick'em at minus 109 109 on Bookmaker is a great deal, and that will be the play of the day here for Thursday, May 30th. If you want some other leans on that game, I do lean to the Kyle Lowry under 15.5 points in there. I know that Kyle Lowry has been solid in recent games, but he announced publicly that his wrist is still bothering him and that he's still being plagued by an injury there. And I still think that the Warriors will be able to stifle this Toronto offense. Lowry was great against Milwaukee, but to be honest, Milwaukee, I know that Eric Bledsoe is a first-team all-defense, but at the same point, I think that Eric Bledsoe was the most useless player on the floor in that entire series, and Kyle Lowry did whatever he wanted. Even though Curry's not the best defender by any means, the Warriors do run a very solid team defensive type of style where they'll try to force players to go in certain directions to bring double teams from the opposite side. So I definitely think that Kyle Lowry will be a little bit overwhelmed, and I think that he will struggle from the floor. And I know that he was great against Milwaukee, but he's also had a history of choking in the playoffs. And I would not be surprised to see Lowry vanish into thin air again, as the Warriors will end up trying to punch Toronto in the mouth by hitting them with something they haven't seen before defensively. So I will lean to the under 15.5 points for Kyle Lowry. And if you wanted some other odds, some good deals, I mean, Draymond triple-double I think has some value to it, but that's also assuming he's going to be able to grab enough rebounds against the likes of Gasol and Ibaka and those type of people. So for me, I'm going to personally lean away from that, but I do like Draymond over in assists, and I definitely think that there is some value on him getting a triple-double. My main prop in that game, though, will be on Kyle Lowry under 15.5, but the main play will be on the Golden State Warriors fourth quarter money line or pick 'em, whatever you want to call it, at minus 109 on Bookmaker. But there are a couple of other baseball games that have yet to start, so we'll go over those games right now. First game, you have the Brewers versus the Pirates with Musgrove versus Anderson. Anderson is actually solid this season, 2-0 with a 3.25 ERA. Musgrove has not been great. I still like him as a pitcher personally, but his record has not been much to show off. In terms of this game, I lean to the Brewers. I definitely think that Yelich will do well here. I think that the Brewers itself have the much better team. They're going to be contenders in the NL Central and potentially for a World Series. Pittsburgh's at 500, but at the same point, I just think the Brewers are the better team, and I will lean to the Brewers' money line on that one. And I also think they have the better bullpen, so I think that will factor into that game. Moving on, you have the Rays versus the Twins in a very interesting conflicting styles type of game where the Twins, all they do is hit home runs and score, where the Rays, all they do is limit your opponents to roughly 3 runs per game. So money's poured in on Tampa. They open up minus 135 up to roughly minus 155. You have Perez versus Morton on the mound. In terms of this game, I wouldn't touch it just because of the fact that Perez and Morton have both been really solid this season, but the Twins can easily score 6 runs by themselves. If you want to know where I'd lean to the under 8. But do I feel confident in that play? No. But in terms of size, I wouldn't touch it with Perez and the way he's pitched recently. And Morton's still a very solid pitcher, so I would not touch the money line here, especially with the Twins' terrible bullpen. But I do like the under 8 in the first 5 under there, as I think that both starting pitchers will do well in Tropicana today. So I'll lean to the under there. Moving on, you have the Rangers and the Royals with Junis versus Minor. And money's come in on Kansas City. Texas opened up minus 175 favorite down to roughly minus 165 in most spots. Total's been bet down from 10.5 to 10. In terms of this game, I still lean to the Rangers. I don't really get the money here. Junis has not been great, and Minor's still been pretty solid for the Rangers. Plus, the Rangers have actually played pretty good baseball recently, and their offense has looked really good against Seattle over the last couple of days. So for me, I'm going to lean to the Rangers' money line there, and I think that the Rangers will get the job done at home. Moving on, you have the Indians versus the White Sox with Carrasco versus Banuelos. And for me, I would lean to the over 8.5 here. Carrasco's a very solid pitcher, but he has had some issues over the last month or so where Banuelos has not been amazing. So for me, I think that this total has been bet down from 9 to 8.5. I don't really care. I would take the over there, as both teams also have mediocre bullpens at best. So I will lean to the over 8.5 there. Moving on, you have the Angels versus the Mariners with Kikuchi versus Garcia. And this one, total's been bet up from 8.5 to 9. I lean to the over there. Seattle's a slight favorite, rightfully so, as Kikuchi has been pretty solid this season. But at the same point, the Angels just had a pretty high-scoring series against Oakland, and their bullpen has not looked great recently, where Seattle is still one of the top 3 over teams in the league. So I'll lean to the over 9 there. I think both lineups will do well. Moving on, you have the Mets and the Dodgers with Vargas versus Ryu. Dodgers up at minus 235 favorites, up to roughly minus 240 or 250, depending on where you shop. Vargas is awful. Tolzman bet up from 8 to 8.5. The Mets blew a 3-run lead in the ninth inning yesterday, and the Dodgers ended up scoring 4 in the ninth. Didn't even get to extras. They just scored 4 in the ninth. So props to the Dodgers for that comeback. Very demoralizing loss to the Mets there. Vargas, not a great pitcher by any means. He was okay against Detroit in his last start. Not great. Ryu's actually looked really good this season. In terms of where I'd lean, I'd still to the over 8.5, as both teams have actually looked pretty solid offensively in this series. So I'm surprised to see runs kind of come pretty often here, and I think that both teams will score at least 4 runs. So I'll lean to the over 8.5 there. And moving on, you were supposed to have Red Sox-Yankees with Sale and Hat, but that game has been postponed, so we will not be talking about it. Other than that, yeah, Terry, fourth quarter, Golden State over 25.5 points. I definitely like that in terms of value, especially if the Warriors are winning, because then you also have the free throws at the end of the game, which should pay dividends, and that's also why I like the fourth quarter. I think that the Warriors will be winning, but with about a minute to go. So I think that you will get some value on free throws at the end of the game. And I think everybody knows that Curry at the foul line is absolutely money. So I think that there is value there, and I would lean to the over that, Terry. I think that the Warriors will score at least 25 points in the fourth quarter, because I think that they will be up, and I think they will be getting some free throws late in the game. So I actually do like that as well. Now, I'm also aware that I have not made any tennis videos for the last couple of days. I'll be resuming those tomorrow. The issue in Vegas was simply the time difference. So instead of the matches starting at 5 in the morning, they started at 2 in the morning, and I simply just didn't have enough time to actually look over all the matches. So I didn't give anything out. I actually had some leans today, and they won, but I didn't give them out, so they're pretty much irrelevant. But at the same point, I have a couple of announcements to make. First announcement, of course, is a reminder about our sponsor here with PointsBet, new online sportsbook in New Jersey. They have a lot of great promos going on. They have up to 2 risk-free bets of up to $1,000. So if you want to bet on this State fourth quarter game pick and it ends up winning, then you collect. And if it ends up losing, then you get your money back. So it's a risk-free bet. You get up to 2 of those. And the NBA playoffs deal is actually a perfect segue into the play of the day. As if you place a money line bet and your team is leading after 3 quarters, you get paid out instantly. So in other words, if Toronto's up after 3 quarters, which is exactly what I think is going to happen in this game, then you win. And then when Golden State goes on its fourth quarter run, then you still win. So you don't even have to worry about the Warriors coming from behind again in the fourth quarter, as you already win your bet. But the second announcement I have is I'm actually going to be doing something new on the channel. It's only for very, very beginner bettors, like amateurs, but I will be doing a brief breakdown of just different gambling terms. I'm going to call it the betting basics type of show, and I'll simply just be covering the stuff that all of you probably know if you watch my shows. For example, like what is a money line, what is a spread, what's a parlay, what's a straight bet, those kind of things. So if you want to just learn more about the basics of betting, I know that it's becoming more popular in the world, and some people, I know that most of you who are on Winners and Winers and Stats.com already know the basics about betting, but some of you might not, and I don't want this kind of to seem intimidating, so I will cover some of the basics, and I will relay some information to all of you. So if you want to watch those, you can. If you don't, then you don't have to. But I feel like it would be a good idea to try to help bridge the gap between very knowledgeable bettors and very novice bettors to try to make it easier for all of you. So look for that coming up in the future. With that being said, the play of the day, as I said for about the 5th time, is on the Warriors fourth quarter pick-up at -109 at Bookmaker. And that is going to do it for this installment of Scott Selections here. Good